Sure. I just don't believe that it's not permissioned in the sense that it has to be a sole permissioning, that you either accept conformity and the hive, essentially the artificial hive, and if you say no to it, you get to step into your power here in this coming age. So I'm not pessimistic about where we're going, but just to get back to the idea of the archonic control, how did people like your parents feel like they were benefiting? And did you feel that they were entities controlling them or possessing them in terms of
absolutely
why they were so committed to this?
When my father would manifest his devil spirit, and usually when he wanted to kill someone or perform some other satanic ritual, they let the entity take over their bodies. So the vibe coming off of them totally changes to an archon. Totally, and it's child killing, pedophile, mass murderer, total evil. It is so evil, so vicious that it's jaw dropping. And my father's eyes would flash black, solid black, when he would switch to the archonic energy. Just for a moment, total black. And same with my mother. And, I never saw those two happier than when they were killing a child. And you really have to think about this. There's a group of adults together stabbing a child to death and laughing hysterically. And then, my mother would get upset at me for being upset over the murder, the human sacrifice. And she would say, "What's the matter with you? We didn't really kill the person. They'll just go back to source and get a new body." Because you can't kill consciousness. You can only mind control the, shall we call it, the earth suit.
And just to clarify, what's the reasoning for molesting a child or killing a child in these ceremonies and drinking the blood? What is the actual purpose of this?
It's motivated by the other dimensional consciousness. When someone is possessed and is raping a toddler in the programmable state, because they're in the programmable hypnagogic state, 1 to 7 years old, they're closer to the divine morphogenic field. They have a 0.1 hertz brainwave pattern. They're in like a delta state, brainwave wise. And so my father, I can remember him raping me, and it was almost like the energy of my heart, of my life, was being drawn through him to the etheric entity inside him. So he was like a conduit for that life force energy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does.
And because these entities feed off of terror and negative human emotion, to terrorize a child in the hypnagogic state is a wonderful thing to do, because they're very close to the 0 point energy field by only having 2 brainwave patterns. So it's all an energy game. Now,
it's all an energy game here, which is to say, is this Earth basically, from the archonic perspective, like a parasite just looking to feed on life force? That's what that's my intuition of what's happening. It's essentially feeding on life force through human energy, through blood, the same way that we eat animals, they feed on us, sometimes literally, right? And definitely energetically. So is that really what it is? Like an archonic parasite basically feeding on the human life force that is within our realm of consciousness and energy?
I would say since 9600, the Younger Dryas cataclysm and the taking over the world system by the dark occult, um, they are basically using us as cattle. We are cattle for them, and we feed them. Now, what's really weird is when every avatar, from Krishna to Buddha to Jesus Christ, every single one of them said, go within and bring what is within out. Bring your inner consciousness, break the shell of your programming in this world. I mean, break the spell of go along to get along. Break the spell of ignorance. When we were kids, we were very curious, and schools basically destroyed that curiosity in people. I mean, when was the last time most people read a book? It's scary. So
it uses a different part of your brain when you read. It uses more of an imagination than when you're simply passively in hypnotic state receiving images from the television set, for example. So it's been this mechanism of control. It's ancient, and as far as the different expressions of it, because I guess people do get a little confused when they hear like Moloch and other expressions like Moloch. They're thinking, well, how does that connect to like the Catholic Church, which also seems to be in a way part of this satanic cabal, so it's like it gets compartmentalized in the nature of the nomenclature, right? The names make it such that we separate. We go, well, Catholics don't do this. It's devil worshippers, but actually the satanic force is actually within, the many of the religions that people worship. No.
Absolutely. I don't think there's a status quo religion that is teaching true spirituality. I mean, basically, an old pastor friend of mine said, well, there's 41,000 changes to just the 1611 King James Version. 41,000 changes. So who is the publisher of this world? It's not the good guys, it's the bad guys. Okay? Who controls the information of this world? It's not the good guys, it's the bad guys. And so there's enough information in every status quo religion to get you started, to get you on the path. But then you're going to have to make a decision whether you're going to follow a religion or you're going to follow natural law. And that, my friend, is a totally different thing. Because once you become self-responsible and you start to know thyself, all the mystery schools pre-325 AD, Council of Nicaea, when the Roman Empire took over Christianity, all the mystery schools in the Mediterranean had a sign on them, know thyself. This is the key to human consciousness, is actually going within and learning physiologically, psychologically, spiritually, energetically. Where are we? Who are we? And what are we here to do? If you're not asking those big questions and not seeking daily to do EFT, emotional freedom technique, to meditate like Joe Dispenza, if you're not reading to climb Jacob's ladder, so to speak, if you're not growing in consciousness, I don't know why you're here. But certainly to collect a bunch of Chinese manufactured baubles and then get thrown into a pit is really not a life.
Very well said. Very well said. So in conclusion, it seems like you are a little bit pessimistic because you think the archonic controllers are now going to successfully re-engineer humankind as it was done in the past by the so-called Anunnaki of the Sumerian tradition, right? Is that your perspective?
My parents in Arden, Delaware is a Illuminati village, along with Rose Valley, Pennsylvania, which were founded in 1900. The head of the cult in Arden, when I was there in the 60s and early 70s, was a man by the name of Buzz Ware, who now the village center is named after him. Buzz Ware supposedly was a reptilian shapeshifter. I have static memories of being in the presence of reptilians, kind of like snapshots. And my parents one time when I was about 4 or 5 were bemoaning, Sean, that they could not shapeshift into a full reptilian. And what they said was, we do not have enough of the corruption in us. So there you go, David Icke. And
certainly believe it. I certainly believe it. I mean, yeah.
The thing is,
stories are global. The reptilian stories are ancient and global. The Gnostics obviously talk about the Draconi, right, being one of the.
And the short grays.
Indeed.
What the short grays are doing, according to Dr. David Jacobs, that'll keep you up at night. And I don't know if you've talked to him, but maybe you should. But I, at 5 years old, in the Church of Marquis of Hell, said to them in love, Sean, I said, you're going against God and nature, and you think you're going to succeed in this? This is not going to end well for you. And what I'm saying was, my mother could read auras. And at that time, she was saying to my father that I was glowing. The photonic energy that was in me was actually glowing to her trained vision. And I was so full of love, even though I'd spent years being tortured, raped, and drugged. So I believe that the higher consciousness of the quantum divine love is much more powerful than anything else. But we have to do the work to get back to that. There's shadow work to be done. There's EFT. There's learning. I mean, listen to some of Mark Passio's longer talks, like Natural Law, the only true law of attraction. It's an 8-hour talk, but you know, you need to see that 2 or 3 times before it gets through your noggin, to where you get to see society in a totally different mindset. It's the same with, you know, look at David Icke's long presentations.
Yes, I mean, it's about awakening. I mean, this is, I'm in the perspective you are. I think that there's going to be there is an opportunity here for the dark side to take control of certain humans and roboticize them and turn them into basically the gray aliens.
They're desperate, Sean.
But I think there's an awakening happening, and there is an awakening that's inevitable with the Aquarian age, a frequency shift, as you can explain it.
Well, one person that's out of Stockholm syndrome, because we all, with the most powerful transmitter and receiver of frequency and information on the planet is the human being. And we all, you know, broadcast to one another, and it's a total consensus mixing of everything. Now, when someone comes out of Stockholm syndrome, they're broadcasting a broadcast of freedom, and they're also closer to the Divine Mother and Father. So they're broadcasting a true human consciousness of love and freedom. And, you know, someone who's under culturalization mind control is in the R complex, the lowest state of the mind. There's the limbic system and the neurocortex. So it's flight or fight. It's reptilian. It's nothing. It's robotic. Whereas someone who is in the limbic system, someone who is in the frontal lobe, it's higher consciousness. It's emotion. It's love. its beauty. That's much more powerful than fear. So I don't think it's something where we're going to see a lot of numbers of people waking up, but the quality of people that are waking up through Joe Dispenza's work, through Michael Tazarian's work. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about interesting things, interesting history. But I mean, for individual growth, I would say Dr. Joe Dispenza, Kevin Trudeau, and EFT, Gary Craig. You know, you have to know that stuff. But EFT helps you reprogram your subconscious. Now, if we're broadcasting 40 million 40 bits of information into the morphogenic field every second, if we break our Stockholm syndrome, and my mother said everyone on this planet is suffering from Stockholm syndrome, but when you start to look inward and stop blaming society and start taking your power back and start being individually responsible for everything. See, as you broadcast back into the morphogenic field, it boomerangs back to you as your life experience. So you need to fix your subconscious the way you think and feel. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches about this. Kevin Trudeau teaches about this. Bruce Lipton teaches about this. The revolution is within. The archons are terrified to the point where they need to change our DNA. Do you understand?
Of course, that's the only way to get hold.
If they get away with it,
right,
we're in bad shape.
Yes.